and then you get started there. And in fact,
it's like that famous Fergie song, Get It Started.
The Fergie song. Uh-oh, I pissed myself.
What?
All right, we are starting the show in 3, 2. What is up, everybody? Welcome to Comic Book Club. I'm Alex.
I'm Pete.
And we are coming to you live from a couple of places on the internet. We are live over on Crowdcast, also live over on YouTube, or maybe you're catching us later on iTunes, Android, Spotify, Stitcher, the app of your choice, wherever you listen to podcasts. However you listen or watch, it's all good for us on this fine fall day. Now, you might notice that our third host, Justin, is actually not here today.
He's famous now. He hangs out with Tom Hanks, so he doesn't have time for us anymore.
Yeah.
Him and T. Hanks are just kind of rolling deep up over in Hollywood. So, like, you know, it's got to be tough. You know, Justin, I don't know if you saw on Twitter, but Justin's the line producer for Tom Hanks' new special on the Academy Awards. And I feel like they just had a sit-down conversation, just the two of them, about what it's like to be hot right now.
Yes. This all sounds like you're joking, except you're actually not. You just got some of the details wrong, right?
I'm pretty sure.
There's a special called A Night at the Academy Museum that's actually airing tonight on ABC, I believe at 8 o'clock.
That's why I can't be here tonight.
Yeah, because they do it live, right? They pre-tape it and just have like a backup in case Tom Hanks dies or something.
Oh, like what? Come on, man.
And no, it's a pre-tape special, but he has some other stuff going on, but you definitely check it out. I watched a screener of it. There's a very funny thing at the end where his credit goes across. It says written by Justin Tyler, and it's Danny Glover behind him going like that with his thumbs up. It's pretty hilarious. So
wow.
Watch the special for Danny Glover giving a thumbs up.
This shit. Yeah,
exactly. He points to Justin's name and says, "I'm getting too old for this guy."
This guy shit, because that's how I feel.
This is Straight Bullet Ass. Again, this is on ABC tonight, Tuesday night, at I believe.
So either go to YouTube or ABC, whatever's easier for you.
Not
you know
YouTube.
What I mean?
It's not on YouTube. It's going to be on Hulu tomorrow. It's called A Night at the Academy Museum.
Oh, they'll be like somebody's TV screen tonight. Don't you worry about it on YouTube.
What are you talking about?
You're talking about those like images where somebody's recording their television of a live show.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
One of those images?
Yeah. One of those like streaming live on YouTube things where it's like somebody's house and you can like hear people walking in the background and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that old thing.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about. Now, we should also talk about tonight's drink as curated by our official CBC chef, Brett Macris. It's called The Bitter Revenge, and it's once again from the Gotham City Cocktail Book. This one is Calvados, dry vermouth, sweet vermouth, Angostura bitters, I never know how to pronounce that, and an apple slice for garnish. I used a slightly modified recipe just based on what I had around. I used Laird's, which is another apple brandy.
Eastman Laird's.
Laird's. I used Eastman's. I used a little Michelangelo.
Yeah, smart.
You could really, the great thing about this drink is you can really taste the turtles. That's good. I love being a turtle, and I love getting drunk.
Oh my God, what is that?
That's what I always say. Anyway, this is a really good fall drink. Highly recommend it. Really good. Another great choice from Brett Macris and from our Patreon Slack, patreon.com/comicbookclub, where people are choosing these drinks every week, which is very fun. So I'll tell you what, we're going to bring in our first guest here later on in the show. We're going to have Frank Barbiere and Curt Pires are going to be here. But right now, let's bring in our first guest, who is Lesly Julien, the creator of Savage Wizard, which is on Kickstarter right now. Kickstarter. Lesly, welcome to the show. How are you doing? Very excited to have you here.
How y'all doing? I'm great.
So listen, your Kickstarter is going on right now. Again, it's Savage Wizard #1. And I just want to call out something before we get into the interview portion. So I have the Kickstarter up here right now. I'm going to share it on the screen. You are, with 63 hours to go, You are at $5,748 out of
so close.
$6,000.
Yeah,
So
finally.
close.
Mom!
Oh my goodness, you are right on the cusp there. Right
Get
on the
out
brink.
there and support it. This is a cool
I feel
project.
like you're probably going to get it anyway, but we're going to try to give you the comic book club bump. So if
Heck
anybody
yeah. I'll
who's
take it.
watching live right now can go and pledge and bump this up and try to get this over the edge, really appreciate that. Please go do that now at Savage Wizard. In the meantime, let's talk about the book to convince people to pledge for it. I think I can figure it out based on the title, but
Yeah.
talk about the book, talk about the concept a little bit.
Yeah. For anyone listening, the really easy breakdown we love to give is what if Conan Barbarian was forced to become a wizard to save the world, pretty much.
Nice.
That's a great pitch line. I love it. Pete, that seems right up your alley.
Yeah, this is fantastic. I watched this video a couple times. I love the art in this. The title sets it all up, and man, does it deliver. The action, this is very cool. I would love to see more of this. I really hope you reach your goal. This is just a fantastic concept, and the art here really delivers on it.
Well, talk about the genesis a little bit. I mean, did it start with as simply as that, like looking at Conan the Barbarian and thinking, what if he had magic, or was there a little bit more there?
It did start pretty simply, yeah. Basically, I was taking place in something called Pitchvimber, where you're basically supposed to come up with like a log line a day for a month. And I just came up with a bunch of random, like, wacky ideas, and this just happened to be one of them, funny enough. And so Doug Wood, my co-writer, approached me kind of wanting to collaborate on something, and we went back and forth on ideas and nothing really stuck. And I was like, oh yeah, what about that Barbarian becomes a wizard idea? And he's like, oh my gosh, that's one, let's do that. So things kind of spring forward from there.
Well, once you started with that, then what were the challenges, if any, in getting this book together? What was the biggest challenge, would you say?
Ooh, good question. There's so many. I mean, apart from just scheduling, because Doug's a busy guy, he put together an awesome anthology that was a part of Project Big Hype, which was like a Western-inspired manga anthology. Apart from that, it was also kind of finding Brian, our artist, who's incredible. It took us a while to find an artist, and we were just so lucky and grateful that Brian liked the concept and was able to come on board once we reached out to him.
So when you got Conan the Barbarian, and he's already pretty jacked, right? Like he's pretty muscly. And then you give him magic. Doesn't that essentially make him unstoppable? How do you throw challenges his way?
Scroll down a little bit. That last preview panel we show you, we definitely realized pretty quickly like we had to come up with a way to kind of depower him a little bit. So there is a physical limitation that our main character Renar has to get around, and he basically has to, like you said, reclass from a warrior to wizard, unfortunately, due to some a falling out between him and his former friend.
I mean, this sounds, based on what you're talking about, a little bit D&D inspired as well. Is that right?
It's funny. I would say it has a light D&D inspiration, just from, I would say, cultural things. But funny enough, I started playing D&D after we had really scripted everything. So I'm actually pretty new to D&D, but I have a level 4 rogue and a level 5 orc Goliath right now that I'm.
Look at you, right.
So it's kind of funny. I would say the pandemic kind of made that finally happen in my life. I've always wanted to check it out, but nothing like some online D&D. So shout out to the Good Noodles. That's my party.
Nice.
We usually have a lot of fun, nice. And it's been fun, to kind of think about that stuff. So it might kind of come a little bit more forward in the future issues, the influence.
Well, what about the Kickstarter itself? Obviously, that's always a hustle. We've had lots of people on with lots of different projects. But what has that been like for you over the time that you've had this Kickstarter up?
It's been exhausting. I mean, I'm sure everyone says that, but man, I mean, just kind of being my own marketing person. I mean, you really gotta appreciate the people that do this for a living, because it's rough. It's a lot of work pounding pavement and reaching out to as many podcasts and comic publications that I can to beat the drum and make some noise. And luckily, people have been receptive, especially thanks to Brian Flint's amazing art. But yeah, it's just very interesting. Kind of finally, this is my first Kickstarter, being behind the wheel and seeing everything that it takes to kind of get something like this funded.
And what exactly is it going to fund? Is it going to be one issue? Is it a graphic novel? Do you have series plans for this? What's potentially in the works?
So this is funding this issue. We do have a mini series in the works, but we're funding issue 1, and hopefully we'll be back probably next year for issue number 2.
Right.
All right. Wow, very cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm checking the numbers over here. Not quite there yet. I think it ticked up $1 or $2 while we were chatting.
We'll take $1 or $2.
But hey, it's something.
Every
it's
dollar matters.
Exactly. But again, you're at 5,775 out of 6,000 right now. So fingers crossed, with 63 hours to go, I think you're going to do it. It's a great looking project, and I'm very excited to check it out more.
Yeah, it's super badass and fun. So I feel like you do a great job of just being like, this is what it is, get in on it, because it's a great read, and I hope to read more.
Awesome.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Leslie, thank you so much for coming on the show. Good luck with the project. Stay sane in these last couple of hours here.
Trying.
All right, take care.
Thank you so much, guys. You have a great night.
You too.
All right, there we go. Once again, the project is called Savage Wizard #1. It's on
and it's just like what you think it is. It's like how would you kind of deal with this? And it's such a great setup in that first issue. So I feel like, there are people who get great ideas and then are able to cash in on it. So it's nice to be able to support somebody's really cool idea.
Yeah. All right, let's bring in our next 2 guests. They both have books from Comixology Originals, hence the pairing, but they are Curt Pires and Frank Barbiere. The Frank Barbiere book is called Astonishing Times, and Curt's book is called Lost Falls. They're both available on Comixology right now. Curt, hello. Good to see you again. Thanks for coming.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
What's up, guys? Where's Frank at? He's too cool for us?
I think so. He's lurking. He's just sort of observing.
Hopefully he'll pop in soon.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I was told this was going to be a 4-way, so no Frank. I might have to leave.
Oh, he says he hit the stuff. This is one of the quirks of this particular platform. Tell you what, just to give you a little peek behind the curtain, Frank, I'm going to kick you out and invite you back in again. And hopefully the wires won't get crossed that way. So here we go. But in the meantime, while we're doing that, Curt, why don't we talk about your book, Lost Falls, which is pretty wild. Tell me if I'm... Hey, there's Frank. Hello. Hey. How are you?
Just in time to interrupt Curt.
Yes. Well, I'll still ask you anyway about Lost Falls. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. It's almost like a noir set in dreamland meets The Prisoner is the impression that I got from the first couple of issues. Is that sort of on the right track?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of a weird fiction, mystery, puzzle box sort of book about a guy who wakes up in this small town with no idea of how he got there. And the course of the series, we're really following him as he tries to piece together his missing memories, as well as figure out like what's going on in this town. It's funny. The longer it goes, the more people seem to be commenting on how weird and sort of confusing it is, which is funny because I wasn't. I wanted to make something a little bit weird and sort of we're ambitious in terms of our scope, but I'm not really gleefully trying to confuse people. I guess we're not really holding people's hands as much as they're used to, but it's inspired by things like Lost and sort of Twin Peaks and all this sort of ambitious storytelling. So we've got a plan for everything, but just sort of like enjoy the ride, I guess. Some people seem to really be liking how off the wall things are. So
it's funny you say that because it's a great ride. You're not sure, in the beginning of what's happening, but like the art does a great job of pulling you into this world and kind of setting things up. It's got a couple reoccurring characters that you kind of follow. This is a lot of fun, and the art's really fantastic. It's the scope of it is artistic and kind of noir in such a way that's creepy yet inviting. I'm having a great time with this.
Well, I appreciate that, man. It's much nicer to hear that than to hear you're not having a great time with it.
Could you imagine if we had you on and we're like, not really liking this book? Sorry about that.
Yeah, just lie to me if that's the case, please.
I'd go on that podcast. I'd be like...
the honest guys, honest book club. No, I agree with Pete. What I particularly appreciated reading 3 issues in a row is how you repeat certain sequences and then elaborate on them as they go.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a really fascinating way to structure it. Where did that come from in particular?
So it sort of came as I was writing it. I wrote the first issue, and in the first issue, there's sort of a flashback to right before the main character ends up in Lost Falls and sort of this case he's investigating. And I always knew I wanted to sort of come back to it. But as I got further on writing issue 2, I thought it would be cool if we pulled back the curtain sort of even further and go back and sort of dive into that, but in a bit of a disorienting way. So like, if you're not fully paying attention, maybe you won't realize it's the sequence from issue 1 expanded, but it's sort of designed to reward like multiple readings and close reading. Like a lot of comic books I really enjoyed and love as a reader, I think, are books like that are constructed sort of thoughtfully and maybe don't necessarily hold your hand and tell you everything, but sort of all there. So it's a bit like a puzzle, I guess, where I'm just trying to balance everything out and make sure everything pays off.
Well, it definitely does. I'm curious, and this is getting into something that potentially is for both of you guys. Is there anything to the fact that it's being published on Comixology and digitally that affects the pace of the storytelling? Or are you still just looking at it as an issue, same you would as a print comic?
Is yours monthly, Curt, or is it weekly? I can't remember. It's monthly, right?
Yeah.
Lost Falls? Yeah.
Why don't you go first? I've been talking a bunch already, so let's get you in the game.
I thought I was ready to just like clown around, and then you gave like a nice smart answer, man. I was ready to be like, is it based on my life, Curt, and things like that? I've known Curt for a long time. I feel like I've known Curt for the whole time, almost 10 years now. We met at ECC in like 2013.
You're in the book. You're in Lost Falls, right?
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot. Yeah. And
is that why you sent me all those releases?
I totally forgot about that. I wrote that as an Easter egg, and I think I like text messaged him about it. I just needed like a placeholder name for some cop character, and I hate coming up with names, so sometimes just as a joke I write in friends' names. And I wrote that in and yeah, exactly. It's like a love letter to you, Frank.
I know. I do remember that is a win, and in Rosenberg's like one issue of like Black Canary he wrote, he made the bad guy my twin brother's name. Louis Barbiere is a mafioso. Didn't ask permission on that one. I think my brother was stoked. But anyway, in terms of, for me, like, so Comixology Unlimited does a few different kind of models where some books will come out all at once, some will be OGN, some will be monthly, but at least for Astonishing Times, we really wanted to create that monthly comic like event feel, and I've always done monthly comics and really enjoy the single issue monthly format as like a good TV show. It can create discourse, it can give a nice episodic feel, and my co-creator and co-writer on the book, Aris Quinones, has never done a comic before, and he's the host of Variant on YouTube, which is a YouTube channel about all things comics, and he has a huge audience over there, which has been phenomenal to engage with, and we knew we would be engaging with them, so we really want to build a monthly book because of that, as well as me liking the format, but knowing that we had people who would actually be talking. And Aris, I made some with him, but he's done a lot of specific content on his show to keep that engagement, so it's been really cool to kind of have that conversation going every month. It's really funny for him because he is so used to just covering comics, and now he does like one of his spotlight episodes on his own book, which makes me laugh. But it's really great and a nice way to kind of work with that format even more. And my answer is I just like it. I like serialized storytelling, so we've had the option to try to do something else, but I was like, no, I want to stick to monthly.
Yeah. Well, Curt, what about you? Has Comixology in any way impacted how you tackle the storytelling, or given that it is a monthly, is it basically the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's the one thing is just like how you lay out some of the pages. I mean, double page spread won't really work on a digital first book, obviously. So that's a big thing. Everything else is pretty similar, though. I mean, I sort of write everything the same way I would a regular monthly comic. It's interesting that how Comixology is experimenting with things, right? Like our books we're talking about right now are monthly, but there's other books I know they'll just drop. They'll drop the whole thing at once.
You did Youth Weekly, right? Like Youth was a weekly.
Yeah, so that one was interesting because we did it weekly, and it was right when there was a huge. It was when the comics industry was shut down because of Diamond and all this stuff. So we're able to like capitalize on that and guess drive people to check us out who normally wouldn't. So that was nice, but yeah, I don't know. I'm just writing everything the same way I would, but you know, I have another project I'm doing with them that's going to drop as the whole thing at once, which is a book called Memoria, which is out early December. So that'll come out as like a graphic novel. So I'll be able to answer your question better then, but I don't know. Got to get that plug in there, you know, that sweet
I love
plug.
it. You did it.
Very natural. I love it.
Yeah, very natural.
I do want to talk about Astonishing Times in a second, but just to kind of keep on this for a moment and talk about the Comixology of all, there's been a lot of discussion about different distribution models, not just recently, but literally the entire time we've been doing the show, but particularly recently with the Substack thing and everything else. Have you seen... And I don't know if you can necessarily measure this, but have you seen any new audiences, new readers come in specifically because of the Comixology connection, because of the Amazon connection or anything like that? Or does it, to you, feel like it's sort of the same audience but in a different place?
You want to go, Frank, or should I go?
Yeah, well, I can speak to it because of the connection we have, at least with Eris's channel. So when I started working on this book with Eris and our artist Ruri Coleman and our colorist Lauren Affey, we were going to bring it to different places. Like we didn't know for a fact we were going to do it any one place, but it was around the time that Comixology Originals were really spinning up. I actually hit Curt up a bunch. Thank you, Curt, for answering all my text messages. And I've known Chip Mosher at Comixology, who's kind of the head of Unlimited and really just person I constantly have to thank because he's the one who brought us in. I used to work at Comixology back in like 2012, like when it was a loft in Chelsea, and I love everyone there, and I've always wanted to go back and do something with them. So it just kind of fell into place, and it really fell into place when they announced that they were going to do print editions of the books, because my co-creator, never having done a comic, really wanted it, which I understand. And once they announced that, and I kind of heard that from Chip, I was like, oh, well, we're definitely interested. But long story short, for us, it's really great because I love print comics. I owe my career and life, as it is right now, to print comics. I love comics retailers. But with this project, it's been really easy for us to capitalize on some of the variant audience wanting to read this book immediately. It's so easy to just put a link right there and have them click it and be able to read the book right now versus being like, okay, find a comic shop, get there, see if it's in stock. And again, I can't emphasize enough how much I do love traditional print comics and comic shops. But for this, when we are trying to market to an audience who definitely love comics, but some of them may not be like weekly readers, people who go to comic stores, it's been so nice to be able to just point to a digital product available right away. And hopefully now they're very interested in getting the print edition so we can synergize back around and introduce them to that ecosystem. So for me, and this is my like highfalutin answer. I will always say, like, for me, the content is always the same. Like, I love print artifacts. I have a billion books. I will always love physical items. But for me, it's about getting the story out, getting the art out, and I won't too much about where it ends up coming out. But it is definitely a time when I think, and Curt, I know you can have a lot to say this as well, but when there are new opportunities for creators more than just the traditional models, and that I think is very healthy and going to foster a lot of amazing work. Just the fact that, oh, you don't need to worry about only 5 print companies being able to do your book now. There's a lot of other opportunities, and even looking at things like Webtoon, which has grown, and it all started just from, I guess, like comics just on Tumblr and things like that. I think we've really entered into an era where the audience isn't so worried about like the gatekeeping of traditional pictures as much as the content. And for me, I think that's awesome. I think it's great that creators can go to any company and it's about their books, not necessarily the distribution or where they'll be.
Cool. Curt, did you have anything additional there? Frank kind of teed you up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would just say I agree with most everything Frank said. I think if anything, Comixology's been really great to work with because they'll take chances on, you know, sort of things like I think I said this last time I was on here, but like Youth's a book I shopped around quite a bit in the traditional print market, and you know, for all the chest beating and what's the right word, the self-importance of the progressive comic book industry. No one wanted to do this book because it was a little rough around the edges and featured, you know, gay kids doing crimes. But Comixology got it right away and supported the book. And since then, the book's gone on to, you know, get the TV option, do all this stuff, which none of would have really been possible without Amazon taking a chance on it. So I'll always be very appreciative. And I think sort of just beyond the personal connection, the fact that you can access these titles with like a Prime subscription or with Comixology Unlimited is pretty revolutionary because it's like $5 a month that gets you all this content. And you know, I know just this last week I saw a massive surge in people reading Lost Falls because of the We Have Demons crowd, right? Like they go on there, they read We Have Demons, and then the book right beside it, just because it was the last Comixology book to release, was Lost Falls 3. So they dive in and see what this is, and our numbers getting a big increase because of that. I saw Astonishing Times also going up. So it's like all this stuff is great, I think, because it just gets people reading comics. And I think if people can't spend $50 to $100 or $100 a month on comics, it's nice that they can spend $5 and get to read, you know, everything's Frank doing, everything I'm doing, the Scott stuff, and all the other books. Like, I think that's pretty cool. It's sort of democratizing things.
I didn't even mention that, but I strongly agree. Like, I forget that there is that subscription platform with Unlimited that you get access to so many books. I think like people have started like flirting. I know like Marvel and DC have their own subscriptions, but it's so nice to have one that is all creator-owned stuff too. And like Curt said, have that discoverability, and everyone can kind of rise together when someone is there.
Yeah, like Substack is doing interesting stuff as well. My biggest issue with it so far is that the only one releasing any comics really is James. Everything else is like, let's watch Jonathan Hickman do some charts. It's like, no, thank you. You know, people are paying $7 a month. They want some fucking comic books. You know, you got $1 million from Substack. You know, you don't get to put out some comic books. I'm putting up a little bit right now, but come on, guys. You get the big money, put out a few pages of comics.
Love it. Speaking of a few pages of comics, why don't we move and talk about Astonishing Times, which is also a lot of fun. Now, Frank, I'll try to pitch this book to you as well. It essentially seems to start off with a journalist who writes about superheroes. Superheroes are real in this world. He gets embroiled in a superhero conspiracy himself. While I was reading the first couple of issues of this, I was really curious about where this book started. Did it start with the journalist angle? Did it start with the conspiracy angle? Did it all come at once? What was the germ of the idea there?
I'm going to try to keep this briefer than I have because I can go on and on about it.
No,
But
that's
this
fine.
book really grew out of, so again, my friendship with Eris. Eris, known as my co-writer and co-creator. I met him in 2013, and his channel Variant is a YouTube channel about comics. They have a whopping 2 million subscribers, so it's a very substantial operation he's running over there. And he had covered Five Ghosts, and we actually have a very close mutual friend, and then his brother-in-law was friends, and we just struck up a friendship. So he interviewed me in 2013, and we kind of kept in touch. We talked a lot and would always check out a show. And finally, probably around like 2017, and it took forever, he was like, hey, man, like, it's always been my dream to kind of do a comic. Like, would you be interested in like kind of showing me like the ropes or anything like that? And I used to be, before I got to comics, I was a teacher. I still teach comics and teach writing in general. I'm a huge advocate of kind of giving tools to people who want them, as I hate the kind of, again, gatekeeping that goes on with so much of publishing and so many, even just writing, like even from my time being a teacher, like I taught middle school at one point, and 12-year-old kids would be like, I'm not a writer. I'd be like, you're 12. You don't know that. Like, I'm sure you could be a writer. But anyway, so I instead of being like, please don't talk about making comics, which is always a avenue you can take when someone asks you, I really liked Eris and saw his sincerity. I was like, awesome, yeah, let's do this. Like I myself have, it was right before I started working in video games, because I kind of have left comics after working full-time comics for around 10 years. I was super burnt out, and Eris caught me right before then, and we started talking, and then I was extremely burnt out and literally trying to change careers from being a full-time comics writer. So I got really grumpy and burnt out, and still would talk to him, and he was like, well, hey, I really want to do a superhero book. And I was like, absolutely not. There's no human way we could sell a superhero book in a creator-owned market. Like, it doesn't work like that. And gave him this like litany of reasons why we couldn't do that. And he was just like, cool, and kept talking with me. And he brought me an original idea that was really cool, but I was just like, I don't know if we can make this work. Like, it's too superhero adjacent, especially for where the market was in 2017. And we kept talking, and finally, like, I started having really like interesting organic talks with him. Like, hey, well, like, you run a channel about superheroes that has so many people engaged. Like, what is it that you really care about? And got into like very nerdy, like writing teacher nuts and bolts, and started getting really inspired, and kind of like opened my like old file. And one of the Post-it notes I always had written down was like, superhero journalist story ? And I started talking with Eris a lot about what we would want to do with a book. And honestly, there was a Superman pitch I had and really tried to push through at DC that I tried to give it my all and be like, oh, like, what is important about superheroes in 20 whatever? Like, how do we recontextualize this? And one thing I personally was really adamant about is, this sounds very, very self-centered, but truly where this book came from for me was like, it legitimately makes me so fucking angry that people can go see superhero movies and then walk out and be a piece of shit and like not realize that like, oh, this material is supposed to be inspiring. It's supposed to be about being a better person, about being like the best version of yourself, and like being a hero. And I feel like so much of that has just been drained out by many things. So for me, my like personal thesis was like, oh, like, I want to tell a like aspirational story about heroism, about normal people who appreciate superheroes, who aren't played as the butt of a joke, who are, again, earnest in their love and not always rewarded for it, but not just like even in so many mainstream things as popular as comics and superheroes are, it's still like, oh, like, you like comics, what a nerd. Like we lose that aspirational feature and kind of play it for an easy diss. But again, Eris was so instrumental in this because this is his bread and butter. And from that, we really got talking, and I showed him kind of like how I lay things out and a lot of my best practices, and just having his enthusiasm was so great because this was someone new to it. And I was so grumpy. And as I said, I literally changed careers. So I was super burned out and being like, well, I don't like think comics work because of X, Y, or Z. And then when we got Ruri into the mix, Ruri Coleman, our artist, he had done a little bit of work at Marvel and some stuff at IDW, like some Star Wars and Ninja Turtles comics, but he had never done a creator-owned book. So he was super excited to jump in and do his own original characters. And it just became a really fun jam for me and like kind of reignited a lot of the things I love about comics. But that's all to say, we then slowly grew out the plot of again having a conspiracy lead into around issue 3 and 4 is where it starts getting into something bigger than that. And the thing I joked about is one of my favorite books of all time is Watchmen.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I don't want to make a shitty Watchmen. Like, that's not what I'm trying to do. And then, of course, we have our book open with a superhero getting murdered. So, whoops. But we really wanted to do our own thing, but clearly pay homage to a lot of different books we love, a lot of different tropes of the superhero medium. And in doing so, create something that was familiar, but still very much in service of this more grounded, real world view and aspirational book. And as I said, I'll have a lot more to say about it when the book completes, as it does start with a pretty like genre heavy like murder mystery, but then grows into kind of this reexamination of, oh, what does it mean to be a hero? And it just emphasizing that our main character is a normal person. He is not a dude with superheroes, and he lives in a world where superheroes have been so commonplace that even them doing crazy things have kind of just bored people. And to us, that's obviously a metaphor for the idea that like, oh yeah, we've lived through this burst and boom of superhero stuff. And interestingly, Eris started his channel right as the MCU started, so he's kind of grown with the MCU, and he found his niche being almost like the YouTube channel that explains all this deep lore to a normal person who maybe went and saw the first Avengers, was like, who the hell is Black Widow, and things like that. But
Wow.
that's all to say, that's the brief version. But the funniest thing about it is like the obsession for me, like some of my writing nerdism is like whatever the name of the book is going to be the name of his column, because I need that in my like brain to be like a nerdy thing. And we had an old title that also fit very well, but then we couldn't use because of SEO stuff. And I just remember I actually went to Dallas to hang out with Eris, so we sat for like a day writing names like on a board and that whole cliche. And it was just killing me because I'm like, it needs to work not only as the name of the book, but the name of the goddamn column. And there's only a certain slice we can get. And he had an amazing fantasy poster up in his office, and we started like playing around with that. And then came to Astonishing Times, and our designer Dylan did that beautiful logo, and it all worked there. But again, I feel like it ended up being a really good title for us, as it is aspirational. It does feel like a little like kitschy, archaic as well, but this is all just to say, like, the book really ended up being something special for me, and it grew out of this like weird, like, I'm burned out and don't want to do this. Okay, I'm going to teach someone new about comics, to me getting back into it. So at least it gives me something to talk about. But the book itself, again, I'm so happy with everything else about it, and very happy to have it at Comixology as part of the originals as well. It's been a real perfect storm from something that I didn't think was going to happen to actually seeing it out now. So.
Yeah, it's particularly really funny to hear you talk about, oh, I didn't want to do a superhero book, to this legitimately is a new superhero universe where you read the first couple of issues and you're like, they have history, they have different powers, different relationships. This could be spun off into different books if you really want to. I mean, is that, now that you are back into it, do you feel any better about that direction, or are you still like, no, it's just this?
I do, and Curt, I'm sure you know as well, like, just like when you're making creator-owned comics, like one of the rough things, and Curt, I feel like you've had a really interesting career, like along with me, where like you probably even more than me have done so much of your own stuff. Like it's such a difficult game of finding stuff you're passionate about, but also marketable, also that a publisher will pick up. And truly, one of the cardinal sins of new creators for the longest time is like, don't bring us your shitty Batman, don't bring us your shitty Superman. Like, we have those in the market, you're not going to compete with them. If you have a superhero book, it has to be so specific, or you need to be so famous that you can sell it. And for me, I had done a book with Victor Santos called Black Market, which I really liked at Boom Studios, and Victor is just one of my favorite artists. And that was almost like a Breaking Bad adjacent, like boys type, like, oh, the superheroes in this world are kind of assholes, but there's a cure for everything in their blood. What would it be like if someone was trying to steal their blood and sell it? And hence it's called Black Market, and that's what it's about generally. But that was a lot more limited in scope than this. And I had done that, and this is what I said to Eris, like, I need to find a take I care about. As one of my favorite books of all time is Powers by Brian McBendis, and like owning. And I feel like Powers is just like the pinnacle of a, like, oh, this is a superhero like book that exists in a world that feels familiar and works but has its own take. And for me, like, I'm not saying that I feel like we nailed that, but with Astonishing Times at least, I felt like, oh, the journalism angle can be unique. And one sorry to go on and on and on. Don't fall asleep, Curt, I swear. I'll shut up soon. But one thing that was important to me as well is, this is kind of like, I hadn't done a comic in long enough where I'm like, okay, well, if we do something, I want to really kind of have all my cake and eat it too, I guess. Well, journalism in the comic space, and you guys are part of this as well, like, is a tricky space because honestly, the things everyone wants to cover are the huge stories. And honestly, I owe my career to so many people taking chances and writing articles about me, inviting me on this podcast, doing coverage of my work, knowing that's not going to be as explosive as, again, a Batman writer or like X-Men stuff. And I really wanted to try to do a book that kind of infused that everyman into it as a like subtle nod and appreciation to all the people who've covered me. And one thing we're trying to get rolling, it's all been annoying because of COVID, is do a little more interviews with actual journalists, talk to people about like, oh, why do you care about superheroes and white? Like, why do you commit your time to this? And just kind of have a discourse that's not necessarily about us, but more about the medium, about the art, because I find like so many people have interesting things to say, and that's what we really try to embody with our main character. Obviously, in the first few issues, he will grow a little more, has a little bit of a superficial love for superheroes, but this is still something that dominates discourse in 2021 and is clearly important to so many people. And to at least start bringing a tiny magnifying glass to that through a very genre-driven, entertaining superhero comic is something that really interested me. And again, the connection with Variant has been awesome. We really want to continue pushing into some stuff about making comics. We posted a few videos of like a kind of like mini documentary and a round table where we talk about it, but we really want to push that stuff, as I'm extremely adamant about, like, again, making comics more accessible to new voices, to people who want to know how to write, how to actually put them together. And a few people have done phenomenal work in the space, but for me, it's just something I've always been interested in. This is the stuff I needed to kind of like get brewing beyond just making a book to get me back into it. So I'm glad it's all coming to fruition, if slowly now, but God, I can't even remember the question. Awesome interview answer. But,
my question was, what is your name again?
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what I
it was
asked, and then you just kind of went off for a while. But I think I figured.
But no, it is it has kind of reignited a lot of love for me. I mean, I will always make comics, and I'm glad that I found a superhero thing that I can work within and feel good. And we've seen a lot of really good ones recently. I feel like something that I really pushed a lot to Eris coming into this was Black Hammer by Jeff Amir. I feel like Jeff, again, just like incredible body of work with Black Hammer. He managed to create a new take and a whole universe out of it. I'm like, if we could do something like 1/100th this level, we will consider it success. And obviously Astro City is something that people point to a lot as well. And I don't know, I just have to really credit, as you said, our artist Ruri with making these characters who really do feel lived in, who clearly have a little bit of homage within them, but also it's an intangible you can't find, but the world looks like it should exist. Like, it doesn't look like a parody, and it doesn't look like, at least to me, like super new. Like, it looks like, oh, if you had told me there were comics about some of these characters, I'd believe you. And that is just an art magic trick him and Lauren have managed to pull off.
Love it. For both of you, there are 3 issues out now. I think you touched on this earlier, but they're both limited series. Is that the idea? Yeah, Curt?
Yeah, so Lost Falls sort of like the Hellboy model or whatever, I guess, where it's like there's a series of mini-series. So we're hoping to come back for more after this first 4-issue run.
Cool. And Frank, what about you with Astonishing Times?
We're in a similar boat where we're doing 5 issues for this first miniseries, and it was something I was adamant to, like, oh, we want it to be a complete story. Like, this is, if you read our book, feels almost like at the tail end of a golden age, like, and kind of telling like a final story for these characters. And by design, we really want to open it up. So again, like Curt said, we can do that similar model where we jump back in, but be able to play across the timeline. Like, oh, if we want to do a book that took place 20 years earlier, now we've at least like set those flags in the ground, and again, hopefully like keep the audience engaged and make them curious about who some of these characters were before we see them now and things like that.
Awesome. Well, both of these books are fantastic. People should definitely check them out on Comixology.
Yeah.
They're so cool. Guys, good luck with both of them. It was a pleasure chatting.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Take care, guys.
All right. Have a good night. There we go. Once again, the books are it's Frank Barbiere's Astonishing Times on Comixology and Curt Pires' Lost Falls. They're both really good. I highly recommend checking them out.
Yeah.
Particularly if you don't have a Comixology unlimited subscription. Worth it for those two books alone.
Oh, look at this guy.
Yeah. Love saying that. Love it. That's my catchphrase. And we're going to move on with my next catchphrase, which is my favorite catchphrase because you all make it up. It is your audience question.
That's right. This is your favorite part of the show.
This is my favorite part of the show. Now, for audience questions, all you got to do is drop a question over in the YouTube comments. We'll keep an eye on that. Or over here on Crowdcast in Ask a Question. But before that, folks, it's time to pay a couple of bills.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
Autumn is the air, the pumpkins are in the patch, and our friends at Manscaped are here to make sure you don't carve your pants pumpkins when you're grooming, if you know what I'm saying. Make sure you're keeping things fresh this fall with the leaders in male grooming and their brand new 4th generation performance package. Boys, get ready for a cuffing season like no other. Ready to take the leap into fall with Manscaped? Join the 2 million men worldwide and Pete using Manscaped by going to manscaped.com for 20% off, plus free shipping with the code FANSIDED20. Now, there's a couple of things you're going to get in this package, Pete. All right,
That's
and they're
right.
it's not just trick-or-treat treats. So I don't want you to think it's trick-or-treat treats.
It's not that. So it's weird that you tee it up like it could be, but you're not.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
The
It's not.
treats are the amazing product within the package that holds it all.
Yeah, there's no
and you're
tricks.
You're
There's no
gonna
tricks. It's all treats, baby. Because you're going to get the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, which is your fave.
Oh, yeah.
Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, the Crop Preserver ball deodorant, the Crop Reviver toner, the Performance boxer briefs, and a travel bag.
The travel bag. I mean, that's just great. That's great thinking. And also, the light on that is really nice. It's super useful.
That light.
You
threw out all of your flashlights, I heard, right?
That's
and
right.
instead
I
you
just
use
Manscaped.
Manscaped. You just use the Performance trimmer.
Somebody breaks into my house. I'm going to turn on my Manscaped. Who is it?
Yeah. And then you're going to shave their pubes, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I'll give them a nice close shave on their balls.
They'll be like, you know what? I was going to rob your house, but thank you.
Yeah.
Never mind. I'm
Just looking out for your pants, pumpkins, as Alex always says.
Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code FANSIDED20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code FANSIDED20 at manscaped.com. Make your balls a priority this fall. Choose Manscaped. Your balls will thank you.
Your space balls, too.
Why are you doing that? All right, we're going to move with audience question, but first we're going to talk about what we're drinking. We already know what I'm drinking. I'm drinking this delicious cocktail that is getting me absolutely schnockered, I'll tell you why.
Nice, yeah.
Made myself a double, and that was a mistake.
Yeah, I think that's a smart idea. I like it when you start to turn different colors of red.
I'm very yellow right now. I don't know what's going on with this camera.
Yeah, especially your neck. It's freaking me out. Anyways, I'm drinking a little Pacifico. Still trying to finish the old 6-pack. You know what I mean? A little bit at a time.
Real quick, Pete, you're a doctor. Do you think I have jaundice?
Yep. I was going to write that in my little prescription pad.
Oh,
but
thanks, Doc.
Yeah.
My pants pumpkins, thank you.
Oh, Jesus.
All right, here we go. Let's get to some questions over here. This is from Edward Doherty over on Crowdcast. If you wrote a Free Guy style movie about comics instead of video games, what weird tropes and idiosyncrasies of background characters from comics would you explore or use for humor? First of all, how dare you? We're not going to give those ideas away for free.
Yeah, the comic gold that we've been cultivating over the year. I would definitely think it would be like, the trope of like, as soon as somebody else shows up, you immediately start fighting them and then you become friends and then you team up and your unique set of skills come in perfectly handy for the, tasks ahead.
Yeah. Now, I guess we're talking about like, since it's a Free Guy thing. By the way, I weirdly watched that this weekend.
Me too.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
It's weird how it's the Lego movie, right?
What?
It's like straight up the Lego movie. The
Nah,
plot of it is the Lego
ending,
movie.
though.
The ending goes a little bit of a different direction, but
Thank
not
you.
much.
A little
Not
bit.
much. The beginning of it, very much like the Lego movie. The main character, like Chris Pratt's character in the Lego movie. Jodie Comer's
Stop
character, like
plugging-
Wild Style from the Lego movie.
Stop plugging the Lego movie.
It's bizarre. I had a weird time watching that movie because I was like, this is another movie. How did they get away with this? But
It's completely different.
that all said, we're talking about like, this is comic book world, right? So background characters there. So probably a hot dog vendor would probably be there.
I mean, the love story alone makes it completely different. I mean, come on, man.
I guess.
Jeez.
Lego movie is better.
No.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Don't tell anybody I said so.
We're on a podcast right now, and that's is not really whispering.
Yeah. Oh, right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
As Julian says, the Lego movie rules. Lego
It definitely rules. But,
It rules.
Let's.
Free Guy was fine.
It was
Anyway,
fun.
what else? What else in terms of background characters, like
The-
people wandering around, would you see in comic book world? Definitely somebody who points at the sky and is like, "What's going on up there?"
Yeah, like someone who randomly says important information to what's going on. Definitely.
Mhm. There'd be people hanging out in alleys waiting to get mugged. There'd be
Yeah.
muggers.
Sure.
There's a lot of muggings that happen in alleys in comic book world.
A lot of background characters that are just all wearing blue for some reason or something, just to set the mood.
Mm-hmm.
You know, stuff like that.
Yeah. And robots. I don't know. I'm running out of ideas here.
Oh man, we got ran off fast.
Yeah, sure did.
I Jordan D. White, you know, he's always in the background of a lot of
Oh,
comics.
yeah, probably a lot of comic book editors would be in there. As well.
Yeah, a lot of cameos, a lot of shout outs.
This is from Nelson Martinez over on YouTube. Getting into October and spooky, scary movies and TV shows. What are some of your guys' favorite scary and spooky TV shows or movies of all time?
All time.
All time. I can mention one that I've watched a bunch of times, which is surprising to me given how scary I find this movie and also how much it has actually affected my real world behavior in real life, is Arachnophobia.
Oh, dude, I saw that in the theaters and lost my shit.
Ugh, too much.
Too
So,
much.
There's two things that have happened. They're both off of the same scene. The scene in Arachnophobia,
Go.
Stray Bullet says, is that a comedy? Yes,
Go.
it is. And that's why I've watched it so much,
Dude,
because
when they look up that,
it's very funny, great horror comedy movie about spiders invading a town. But there's a scene where a woman takes a shower and a spider falls on her face. And I swear to God, I still, every time I take a shower, look up just to make sure there's no spiders over there. Every single time. Saw that movie decades ago. Still the same behavior.
Always look up.
Yeah. But it's great.
I mean, every time I'm taking a shower, I always, like, after a little bit, just pull open the curtain to make sure there's nobody with a knife standing there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, fair. The other thing that I did for a while that I don't do anymore is, for some reason, I got it into my head that there was also a spider in the towel, because I think she gets out of the shower and she puts on a towel. And so for a very long time, I would shake out my towel in case there were
That's just
spiders
smart.
there.
That's
Yeah.
smart. Just shake
Just
out the towel.
proactive.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, what else? I mean, I could keep throwing out stuff. Another one, a recent one that was really good that I think we've talked about here on the show, Midnight Mass on Netflix, I thought was pretty excellent. Also, the other Mike Flanagan stuff on there, The Haunting of Bly Manor, The Haunting of Hill House, Dr. Sleep, which he did, was also great. All good stuff. What about you, Pete?
I'm glad you're
stuff?
having fun. Yeah, I don't do scary stuff very well. I've seen a bunch of stuff, the classics, but I
Abbott and
don't.
Costello Fight Frankenstein.
Sure.
Abbott and Costello kick the shit out of Frankenstein.
Okay, let's take it easy. I just feel that, like, that poor monster. You know what I mean? I just feel that, like, I'm not excited to get scared. I don't want to be losing years off my life because of a fucking movie. You know what I mean? I've become way too invested in what's happening, and it's a no-go situation. I don't want to be up. I don't want to have more nightmares.
What about Ted Lasso? That was pretty scary, right?
What are you trying to do, sir?
I'm trying to start something.
You? I mean, Ted Lasso was scary. I mean, it was the Vader moment there at the end reveal.
Mm-hmm.
Oof.
All right, why don't we go over here to another question? This is from Crodcast again, from Jolene. What are your thoughts on the idea that Batman just beats up the mentally ill? Are costume villains in Gotham actually ill, or are they mostly just faking abusing the system so they don't have to go to the hard to break out of prison? So I think there's two sides to that question. First of all, no, I don't think they're faking it. I think they are actually mentally ill. Second of all, I think, sure, there's a story to potentially be told about Batman beating up the mentally ill, same as there's a story to be told about, hey, why doesn't Batman use his money to fix all the problems in Gotham? He's a billionaire. Both of those stories are no fun.
Oh, man.
That's the main thing, is that, like, I understand the argument and it's fine to talk about in the real world, but who cares? Do you want to read a story where people are like, you know what, actually, Batman's in the wrong and you should stop beating up the Joker and we're going to lock up Batman? And we did lock up Batman and now there's no more Batman at the end. Who likes that? Or some story, like they've done this before where Batman's like, you know, I just realized I'm a billionaire and I should be building out the infrastructure in Gotham City. And you're like, wow, that's a really great idea. I'm glad somebody's finally doing that. And then half an issue later, he's like, I'm kicking the shit out of some mentally ill person right now, like Frankenstein, for example, like Abbott and Costello. I was inspired by them, and now I'm going to kick the shit out of Frankenstein. That's the sort of thing.
I don't know what your tangents are all about. Yeah, I mean, there's some dark sides to Batman, and someone pointed out in the comments there. Yeah, I don't think Batman's got it all together either. So, there's a lot of different takes on Batman. Some darker than others. You'd like to hope though that he's not just beating on poor people and making things worse.
If you want to see a billionaire making life hard for mentally ill people, read any of the news about Jeff Bezos, and I think you'll be good to go.
Oh, my God.
All right, let's move to a question over here. This is from Scott Carpenter. How do you feel about Lord Zed being revealed as Zordon's old mentor and Darkon's return to power? So I'm hoping this is a comment on the fact that Bleeding Cool wrote up a story about our show from a couple of weeks ago, and called us a Power Rangers podcast.
Wow. All right.
Yeah. So that's a really good point to announce. Pete, should we announce this now that we're officially pivoting to just being a Power Rangers podcast?
From Power Rangers.
Yeah. So what do you think about this? I was floored about this Zordon reveal. What about you? And remember, we're a Power Rangers podcast, right. So you know what I'm talking about.
I am, and man, it was crazy fun. But the Power Rangers comics have been a blast. So
they have actually been very good.
Yeah, we've been enjoying them. So I don't. If people want to say that's our deal, that's fine. They're doing great on the comics. We would love to talk about more, but yeah, I mean,
would you do? Not that we have time, or necessarily the interest.
Don't you start.
No. But let's say somebody was like, hey, I want to hire you guys to do a Power Rangers recap podcast starting with the first episode and going through all of them.
Wow.
Would you do it?
I don't know. I mean, I would have to do, I don't know. I would have to do a little bit of thinking, because that's a lot of watching Power Rangers. That's a lot of commitment.
I do sometimes think about, we talk about a lot on the show, how we could be very deep into a Walking Dead podcast. I do sometimes think about whatever the Walking Dead finishes up in another decade or so. Maybe that's when we start.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, we got to finish our Doom Patrol podcast before we start.
Yeah, all the episodes are taped. We just have to post them at some point. So we'll get around to it, I'm sure.
Oh, man. Not funny.
Definitely not. This is from Kevin. What's a title you were really interested in that didn't make it past 1 or 2 issues?
Oof. I mean, we read a lot of number ones. You know what I mean? The thing is, we read so much, like when things don't kind of like when things fade away, it's not like it's like unfortunately, it's they can't all be, great. So I mean, there wasn't one that I'm thinking of, but it's definitely happened. There's been like a lot of cool premises that don't deliver. I think sometimes when you start writing something, a lot of times stories move in different directions, which is great, but sometimes that can kind of go away from originally what kind of made you show up. So yeah, there's been a ton of stuff. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus though.
Yeah, I think he was specifically asking about titles that were canceled after one or two issue, but just to give people a little peek behind the curtain in terms of the stack, at least the way that I send out the stuff, usually I'll throw out a first issue if one pops up from any of the publishers that send us stuff. So just to give it a try.
And by throw out, you mean put it in the stack?
Put it in the stack, yeah.
Right.
Because I think it's worth giving a try, right? It's worth illuminating a new first issue.
A great jumping on point.
Exactly. Number 1 is one of the best jumping on points for along with number 43.
Except if there's a fucking 0 issue. Yeah.
Sure, that's a different thing. But my general feeling is if we were kind of mixed on an issue, but somebody was positive, we should read the second issue and see what it's like. Sure. If we were all negative on it or it was nonsense, definitely leave it out with the second issue.
Although sometimes you'll bring things back around if they made somebody angry in certain ways, then you like to torment us with it.
Well, potentially to see if that keeps up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it usually does. Well, thank you for interrupting that flow over there. Let's go. Here we go. This is from Stray Bullet. I asked this question in the stack, but I thought it would be fun to put here too. Hickman is normalized. Oh, this is in the stack section of our page, in the Slack, not the stack. Stray Bullet has also been drinking this drink, which again, very strong. I asked this question in the Slack, but I thought it would put it here too. Hickman has normalized full text pages of the current X books, and it's probably the one thing about the X books I agree with Pete about, is the text pages an easy way out for creators. In the beginning, it was kind of unique, but now it feels overdone, and they treat them like aggravating office memos rather than important parts of the plot. If they're important, shouldn't they be drawn out like the rest of the book? Pete?
It feels like, maybe they're running out of pages. The page, it's a good way to kind of condense story to just give us a little graph and tell us what happens next or whatever, or what happened in the past or some key thing. But yeah, I think what's nice is it started, I hope, as something creative and different to kind of pull in the readers. And now, like a lot of things, they kind of like just become these bland things that we kind of wash over and don't really notice anymore. I mean, I can't tell you the last time I went back and read any of that bullshit.
Man,
those text pages are just like, hey, listen, we didn't have time to draw this, but here's a couple ideas we were thinking about putting in there. Maybe it'll happen. Thanks for checking out the book.
100% not. And I do think it devalues the effort that people probably put into those pages to talk about them in this way, because they take a lot of effort. They're not about like, I'm just tossing something off and throwing it in there and kind of filling up my page count, which they're trying to give a little extra bonus, trying to give a little extra time. We've talked about it a lot on here. They don't always work. And in fact, there are a few writers that can make them work outside of Jonathan Hickman, who actually saves the most important information for his text pages to almost an infuriating amount. He absolutely does. He's absolutely,
it sounds like if somebody's not reading that, they're missing important things.
Absolutely. Well, This is what I'm saying is like the Hickman X-Men books, the text pages are like,
it's all text pages.
Oh, by the way, here's the important thing that you actually need to know about Krakoa while Cyclops has been, staring at Jean Grey for the past 4 pages or something like that. So it actually flips around the dynamic a little bit. Here, I was thinking about this the other day.
You think so? Maybe we'll collect all the text pages and
just separately.
And just read it like a book.
Absolutely not. I was thinking about this the other day, and I think part of the reason for it is, and Stray Bullet didn't necessarily get into this, but it's something that seeped into not just all of Marvel Comics, but DC Comics and Image Comics as well, it is something to me that is very much like what happened after the Matt Fraction, David Hawkeye book, where specifically it had those identifier panels in the book where it was like Hawkeye, Archer, loser, or something like that. And it was usually like an actual descriptor thing and then something funny. And he had that for all of the characters. So at the time, while Hawkeye was going on, I was working freelance for Marvel doing I don't know if you remember the AR recaps that they did, where you'd point your phone at the cover and it'd give you a recap of it. I wrote a ton of those. So as part of that, I got to read a bunch of the scripts of Marvel Comics, and not all of this showed up in there, but so many of those scripts were so clearly heavily influenced by the text identifier, by the structure, by the tone of Hawkeye, to the point that they call out like in Hawkeye by Mac Fraction, like literally in the script. And it's something that you saw seep into DC Comics as well. It was just the sea change of like, this is a new tool we could use. This is something new and exciting. We've never done this before. Oh, this is great. I want to use this toy as well. And I think that's the thing that's happening with the text pages here. Not that text pages and interstitials are necessarily new for comics, but the way that Hickman was doing them for X-Men was such a seismic sea change. It became such a part of the X-Men books that other people saw that and thought, oh, I want to do that as well. That's a fun way of getting out a lot of information in the limited amount of space that we have in a 20-page comic book. So that's where I think it comes from. But as Stray Bullet is saying, over time, it has become grating because not everybody is good at it. Like most people, in fact, are not very good at it. And that's not to slag off any of the work they're doing or anything like that. But it does become this thing that your eye skips over because it is not giving you the important information. And I think just like the text identifier things in Hawkeye, it needs to be there for the right reason. It needs to be there for to fit the tone of the book, to fit the direction of the book, to fit the structure of the book. It can't just be there because you want to use one of the toys in the toy box that you never used before.
How'd that feel? Do you feel good about that?
What do you mean?
Well, I would wonder if you got lonely on the top of your little soapbox there, or you feel like coming down.
No, I felt great.
Okay, cool. Nice job.
I felt really good.
Yeah.
Thanks, Pete. Thanks for asking. I really appreciate it.
Hey, no problem, man. I'm glad I got all that.
No problem. Puto le doy, this is from Edward Doherty. What are you excited for at DC Fandom this weekend? First of all, very excited to re-enter
the dome.
I love domes. I love domes. Was that creepy the way I said it?
Yeah, the way you said that was real creepy. Yeah.
What if I bit my lip like that?
You just, I don't even want. I want to erase that image.
The way they enclose things. What's inside? Huh?
Stop.
What are you holding back?
Stop talking like that.
You got a whole like
the fandom. Virtual... Talk about the fandom, you asshole.
You got like some news about the Batman.
You're covering the fandom. You got sent a bunch of fandom shit. Like, talk about it, you fucker.
You got some sort of compilation reel about 100 episodes of DC's Legends.
Someone asked you a question.
You foxy dome.
Nobody wants this SMR bullshit. ASMR.
I mean, first of all, it's okay. In all seriousness, DC Fandom is building up to a big event at the end of it that I, like a lot of people, am very excited to see, which is we're finally going to see Abbott and Costello beat the shit out of Frankenstein.
What is happening with you?
It's great. Like, I can't believe that they're finally doing it. DC is finally going for it. It's going to be very cool. I believe Henry Cavill and Jason Momoa are going to be introducing it. They're the opening bout before the title bout, and that should be fun.
Wow. I agree with people in the comments. Justin, please come back to us.
Nobody said that.
Yep.
All Edward actually said was, anyone miss Justin Wright Noel? So I don't think they want him back until Christmas.
Oh, boy.
DC Fandom is, I think it'll be good. I'm a little cautiously excited about it. I think the last event was the first one that they did, mind you, because they actually did a second one that I think everybody forgets about. But the first one was like this flash in the pan. It just worked. Like, it should not have worked. And then it did completely, and it killed it. So I'm a little trepidatious about what potentially they'll do here, particularly because a lot of the stuff that they plugged in the first one hasn't come out. So it's still the Batman. It's still Aquaman 2. It's still Black Adam. It's still The Flash. It's still all of these other movies that they're going to be hyping up as the big thing. But at the same time, they did a really well-produced live stream the last time. So if they do that again, if they mix in comic book stuff like it looks like they're doing with the movie stuff and the TV stuff, that should be very, very cool. Potentially. Are you going to check it out? You're going to hang out for the 4 hours of the Dome on Saturday?
No,
Pete.
But I'll be interested to see afterwards how it goes.
You're a comic book journalist, Pete. You got to be all over this.
Stop putting that title on me. I am not a journalist, sir.
I think you are. All right, folks, I think we're going to wrap up your audience questions on that high note. And now we're going to turn it over to Pete for a little bit of the old trivia.
All right. Now, do we have a person for this, Alex, or no? Great. I'm glad we made that list thing. All right. So this is the part we give back to you.
Thanks for your help, by the way, with that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. This week goes out to you, the lovely audience. It's an opportunity to win $25 free in the form of online gift card to Midtown Comics. So all you need is like a first hand up, a little, hey, Pete, pick me, a little like, hey, I could use online comics, something like that to volunteer would be fantastic.
Yeah, and if you're over on YouTube, you can say, I'd like to do it as well. And there's just like a 30-second delay, so it's super awkward.
But
unlike the rest
still
of this,
doable.
which is very smooth.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell you what, if we don't get a hand up in about 10... Oh!
Oh!
Whoa! We're going to bring in Luana? Yes?
Sure.
Okay, here we go. Bringing her in. Wow, I feel like this is a little bit of a fix is in here, I gotta be honest with you.
There's no fix.
Hello!
Hi. I look really gross, but this is my cat.
Yeah, it's our cat.
Isn't she the cutest?
Yeah.
So cute.
Yeah.
Oh, she doesn't like this.
Oh, no. Yeah, she just woke up for a nap. Hey.
Oh, sorry, kitten. Okay, let's go on. Do you want to ask me questions?
Yeah, sure. All right, so today's trivia is on topical comic news and a small nod to the legend Willie Garson. All right, so please listen to all three options before making your selection.
Oh, Kitten's going to come to you.
All right, here we go.
Let's follow Kitten down the hallway.
This is going to create some sort of terrible reflexive
please
audio
don't get
loop.
too close, otherwise this will go crazy.
Okay,
Question number 1. What is one reason to be pumped for Catwoman Lonely City? Is it A, Cliff Chang on art, B, Justin is the story producer on it, or is it C, Jamie Lee Curtis? So it's either A, which is the correct answer, or
I really like Jamie Lee Curtis.
B or C.
I'd also go for Jamie Lee Curtis. I don't want to,
We all love Jamie Lee Curtis, but let's not be distracted by the fact that A is the answer, so we can move on, please.
Okay.
Great. Yeah. Here we go. Question number 2.
Yo, I'm
This
so
is great.
tired.
This
I
is
just
like
woke up
being
from a
there
nap,
with you
like
guys.
An hour ago. What?
All right. Here we go. Why should we be excited for January 26, 2022? Is it A, the return of Saga, B, because camels love Wednesdays, or is it C, Christina Vidal? So it's either A, which is what we're looking for, or you could be completely wrong.
We can go with A.
Yay!
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Last one.
Wow, these comments are very great. You have a intelligent and funny fan base.
What is the title of the DC event for Halloween out October 26th? Is it A, DC versus Vampires #1, B, Fuck Your Circus Peanuts #1, or is it C, Haley Hudson? So it's either A, and you can get $25, or you could be completely wrong.
Is it Steven Tobolowsky?
Nope.
Oh, he was also in Freaky Friday.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Don't
But
listen
I'm
to
trying
Kevin.
to do-
Kevin is like
Yeah,
several
stop.
steps ahead in the quiz.
Yeah, don't
Oh, I really liked Freaky Friday.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, hit me
Please
maybe one
say
more
A.
time.
Please say A.
A.
Thank you.
All right.
$25 will be yours.
Congratulations. You have won $25 in a Midtown Comics gift card. Now, there's a weird caveat that Midtown told me about this is you're not allowed to let Pete use this gift card.
Oh,
That's so strange.
They like banned Pete LePage from their
Yeah,
store.
they banned Pete from the store after, well, he knows what happens.
Yeah, that's true. But anyways, in today's trivia, all the third answers were a nod to the women who survived slasher films. All three actresses kick ass.
Very cool. There we go. And that answers
were they also,
Jolene's question, which was, hey, Pete, name a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good job.
Yeah.
You did it.
But wait, then why were we talking about Freaky Friday? Was more than one of them in Freaky Friday, or just Jamie Lee Curtis?
All three were in Freaky Friday.
They were all in Freaky Friday.
Oh, so they were in Freaky Friday, and also they were Final Girls.
Yeah, they were in other slasher slash scary.
I didn't know that Freaky Friday was so slasher heavy in its casting.
Well, I mean, you got Jamie Lee Curtis at the helm. You know what I mean? You're gonna.
Yeah, she like brought all her friends.
Yeah. Oh, and that throws me back to, we were talking about horror movies to watch. Everybody should watch Freaky, which is a lot of fun.
Okay.
Freaky?
Okay.
No? Anybody
I don't
know
know.
that?
What are you talking about?
It's Catherine Newton and Vince Vaughn. It's a horror slasher twist on Freaky Friday, where Vince Vaughn is a slasher, switches places with a teen girl in high school who's awkward. And it's
that's funny.
great.
That
It's
great.
very fun. It's from the guy who directed Happy Death Day, which is also fantastic.
Yeah. That's
So definitely highly recommend checking it out.
Wow. I just woke up from a nap. Okay.
All right.
You can
Thank
only
you for
see this
coming
one
on.
eyeball.
Tell your cat I say hello.
Our cat, sure, we'll do that.
I
Okay,
will.
thanks.
She says hi too. She ran away, but yeah, she
All right,
says hi.
bye. All right, there we go. That was interesting. As we all know, tomorrow is New Comic Book Day, except for DC Comics, which came out today. Pete, what are you looking forward to? What do you want to check out?
I'm very excited about Maneaters, The Curse #4. Just super creative, a lot of fun. Love the characters and art. I'm sure we'll talk about it maybe.
Probably. I love that book as well, but I do want to shout out two big finishes and one re-beginning that's happening. Immortal Hulk #50 is coming out. That's very exciting. Very nervous about that. Strange Adventures #12, finishing off that series. Very curious to see how Tom King wraps up that one. And Chilling Adventures of Sabrina #9 is coming out after years after #8. So very excited to see how that continues. And folks, years. That is it for this week's show. A couple of people we want to thank. We want to thank Lesly Julien. Please go plunge Savage Wizard #1. As of right now, it's up to $5,862. So little to go before its $6,000 goal. Also, Frank Barbiere, Astonishing Times on Comixology. Curt Pires, Lost Falls, also on Comixology. Check out all of those. Next week, Olivia Stevens is going to be here to talk about Artie and the Wolf Moon, and Mark Sable is going to be back on the show to talk about Miskatonic and Graveyard of Empires. A couple of other podcasts you should check out. Why the Cast Man, or Why the Last Podcast, every Monday. Marvel Vision, our Marvel podcast, is a little bit of a hiatus. We're going to try to do something before Hawkeye. We'll see what happens. Riverdale After Dark, our Riverdale podcast, just finished up season 1, but we may have a special episode coming at you soon, so stay tuned. Star Guys, our Stargirl podcast, comes out occasionally whenever everybody can get their schedules together. Patreon.com/Comic Book Club to support this show and all the shows we do. iTunes, Android, Spotify, Stitcher, or the app of your choice to subscribe, listen, and follow at Comic Book Live on Twitter, Comic Book Club Live on Instagram, comicbookclublive.com for this podcast and many more. Until next time, good night!
Take care of yourself.
Thanks, everybody.